Hello, I'm Nate Sanford, and welcome to Food Prep 101. I'm going to show you some tools and techniques, along with some new technology and tips on how to use them so that you can get the most out of your kitchen and labor to save you some money and time. Thank you for joining me. So let's begin with some of the tools that we use for high volume food preparation. We have a single speed half size hopper model. We have a full size hopper variable speed unit and a combination machine that can actually do both vegetable prep and can be swapped out with a bowl top to be able to do bowl emulsifications and bowl processing. The most common food prep machine that you're going to see in the kitchens is the single speed half size hopper. And one of the main reasons for that is a few removable parts on it, easy to maintain, easy to clean, nothing really gets lost on it. And this hopper that you can see has this kidney bean shape. That is going to be very important as well. Now, why you see this kidney bean shape hopper so common is because you can see in here, if I were to put vegetables, peppers, things like that, I can actually wedge them in here to form the way that I want the blade to come across and cut them, rather than having a large opening where product can fall, tilt over, and you can get sometimes undesired cuts. This gives you the most precision for your cuts at a very low cost and very easy cleanability for a machine. Now the full-size top that we see is for a little bit more high production, high volume applications. As you can see, when this opens up, you have a lot more area that you can throw product into. Potatoes, onions, even whole heads of cabbage can fit in here for mass production, but you lose the opportunity to get a lot of that precision cutting by wedging product in here. So if you're going for more bulk, this might be the answer for you. Now, it is worth noting that with both these high volume machines, it does have a chute that you can put items such as carrots, zucchinis, celery through to keep them upright. So you get those perfect coin cuts, no matter whether you're using the half size or the full size hopper, you can still make these perfect cuts. So countertop space in a kitchen is always at a premium. So you may want to consider machine that can be put onto a trolley stand like this, so it can be moved from place to place in the kitchen. It has dedicated disk storage on the bottom, and best of all, this machine is a combination one, and we can quickly and easily take our vegetable preparation top off and replace this with a bowl processor top. Now this saves a ton of space by having one machine with a small footprint, dedicated storage, a nice trolley to move things in and out of place, saving you that premium space in your kitchen. Okay, now let's put to test some of the stuff that we learned already. First, the differences between the half size and full size top. We're going to julienne some cabbage. Now we know with the half size top that we're not going to be able to put in a full head of cabbage. So we're going to have to do a little bit of pre-prep in cutting this down so it's going to be able to fit this top. But the advantage we get with this kidney bean shape is being able to force the product in so that we know exactly the way that the blades are going to cut across the grain of the cabbage. Whereas when we use the full size hopper, we're going to be able to put in directly the entire head of cabbage to be able to process, making this much quicker for this application. However, you can see if you did have products that need to be formed specifically to cut against a grain, such as an onion, using a half size might be a better advantage than the full size at times. Setting up this half size single speed food prep machine could not be more simple. First is an ejection disc. This is going to spin around and kick everything into our bin here. Next is whatever sort of disc setup that we want to use to cut. In this case, we're going to be doing some julienne for some cabbage. This goes right on top. Always be sure to be careful to keep your fingers away from the blades. Lower the top, and you're ready to process. Okay, now that we have everything set up, blades in it, all we have to do is turn the machine on, put our heads of lettuce in, and process. These are all continuous feed, meaning you just add the product to the machine and continue to press. You can really see how the single speed machine, that half-size top, really could push out a ton of product. This machine is rated for 1,000 pounds an hour. It does involve sometimes a little bit of extra prep for big items such as heads of cabbage. Things such as tomatoes, onions, products like that can generally fit right through the machine, so you don't have to do any of that pre-prep. So this we consider a very, very good option at a great price. But let's move forward to the larger scale applications. And let me show you a little bit about what makes this different. The setup for the full-size hopper is pretty similar to the half-size, but we do have one extra piece that we can kind of have some fun with. First, we're going to put in the ejection disc. That moves the product out. We're going to put our julienne disc in next. Now, to hold this down, since we don't have that half-size lid that actually holds the disc down, we need to add a centerpiece screw that will actually hold the disc into place for safety. And as you can see, this kind of has a little screw, and that's going to core the center of our cabbage as the blades come across. All right, now for the obvious advantage of this machine over the half size, being able to put in full-size products such as this cabbage could not be more easy. We just add it straight to the hopper, process. Okay, now that we've explored the differences between the two different tops, half size and full size, we don't want to forget that each one of these models commonly come with a vertical chute to allow us to put food in straight up and down, such as zucchini, to be able to get perfect horizontal coin cuts. Now, with this on, because this opening is so small, we can keep this machine running consistently without having to turn the blades off. This gives us a true continuous feed application. Like you can see, we just continue to add food through this, making processing really fast. Same exact top on this machine as well. Offering both of these machines precision cuts for coin cuts like this. We now know the key differences between the full-size and half-size hoppers for these veg prep machines. I hope this helps you make a better informed specification decision between the two. Continue to join me with Food Preparation 101, where we learn about tips, techniques, tools, and the technology to better run your kitchen. For joining me once again on Food Preparation 101. This time we're going to be speaking about some of the accessories that we can get with these machines. Most importantly, the discs that we can have. Over 30 different discs, some that can be combined together to make all sorts of different cuts for your prep. With so many discs available, it's very important to know exactly what you're trying to achieve when it comes to your cuts. Whether you're going to be slicing, dicing, julienning, or even using specialty ricing discs for mashed potatoes. Let's start by talking about slicing discs. These are the most popular with these straight blades. The reason why they're the most popular is they're easy to clean, maintain, and replace. They are the least expensive when it comes to slicing discs as well. When we talk about maintaining, we're actually talking about cleanability and replacement and sharpening of the blades. Many manufacturers provide discs that have screws for their blades, that these can be removed and you can send them to your knife sharpening companies to be able to sharpen them so you don't have to buy a whole new disc every time your blade goes dull. Keeping and maintaining sharp blades is going to be vital for clean, nice, precise cuts. So being able to replace those, to be able to change them out, sharpen them, that's going to save you thousands of dollars over the life of the machines. I recommend treating your disc much like you would your chef's knife. Have dedicated storage like these disc holders so that the blades don't jostle and hit each other, causing them to nick or dull. Same thing with a dishwasher. Putting in these dishwashers tend to do the same thing. Also, using harsh chemicals can oxidize the disc plates themselves. So hand washing them are generally going to give them a much longer life, just like it would your knife at home. So now let's talk a little bit about slicing speeds. You'll notice that some of the larger cuts are going to only have one blade, whereas the smaller cuts are going to have multiple blades. The reason for that is the time it takes for the product when it drops through the machine to get to the slice is less when it's very short like this. So when you adjust your speeds in the machine, you're going to want to take that into account a little. All right, so a common misconception that people have when it comes to these machines when they're sourcing them is that the faster the cut, the better the machine, which is true when it comes to output, but it's also not true when it comes to how precise the cuts are. You actually want a nice slow cut to be able to have a clean, precise cut. So when it comes to variable speed machines, it will range from something like 300 RPM up to 1,000 RPM, depending what you need. The single speed versions of these will kind of err on the slower end, so 365 for this one. That's to give you the most clean and precise cuts. To compensate for that, you're going to notice these discs with the shorter, smaller cuts. They're going to have 3 blades versus blades with 1 that are a deeper cut. And that's to be able to scale that depending on what the speed is. If you are using something like a single speed that's at 365 RPM, you're still getting high output. Okay, now let's put to practice some of the stuff that we've learned. Let's start with the smallest cut, a 1 millimeter slice. We can do some things like shaved garlic, shaved almonds, razor thin slices of potatoes. Those are just a couple things that we'll do to start out. We'll put our disc in the machine. We'll start prepping. Okay, we're gonna start with a potato first. Just a typical peeled baker potato. We're going to get very, very thin cuts on these. All right, and now by thin, check this out. We're talking translucent thin. So you can imagine if we were to do this kind of cut, we would need to be either very good with a knife or put this on a mandolin. Any operators that use mandolins know that they could be quite dangerous. We try to keep those usually out if we can from environments such as school food service, hospitals, things like that, where we have a lot of operators. Using a processor to make very thin cuts is the safest way to do that. Those razor thin potatoes, it's great for homemade chips, things like that. But what I love getting a lot of prep of is razor thin slices of garlic. So we're gonna stick with the 1 millimeter for just a moment. We're gonna prep up some razor thin garlic. All right, time for our garlic prep. We'll just load it all in, turn on. Some beautiful thin shaved garlic. You can imagine this would be the same with almonds as well. For any of your salad bar toppings, items like that, absolutely beautiful. So I absolutely love this 1 millimeter cut because as you can see, it's doing things that would be otherwise very difficult or even dangerous to do in a kitchen, all automatically and very safe. However, it's not the most versatile. You're only going to be doing things that are a little bit more specialty. So as you get up to larger cuts, such as a 6 millimeter, you get a little bit more versatile. You can do a little bit more product with different styles with one disc. I'm going to show you how to do different cuts with one product with one disc to get you a variety of cuts, saving some money and having a nice versatile size disc. Okay, now we're going to use the 6 millimeter disc because we're going to be able to get a few different style cuts with this. First, a typical coin cut with zucchini. What we're going to do to keep this upright, we're just going to feed this through the cylindrical chute up at the top here. That's going to give us perfect little coin cuts. As you can see, very easy. Nice little coin cut, perfect size all the way through. Now, if we want to make that a little bit more special, what we can do is we can pre-process, cut that in half, and now send it through. So now the same disc gives us a second little cut. This is great for your salad bar or ratatouille, something like that. A little bit of extra pizzazz to the cut by doing something different. Now, what's also interesting, if we don't want to use the chute, we can put the product in the main hopper and we can lie it sideways. This is going to give us nice long strips of the same product. So now as you see, 3 different style cuts, same disc, very easy. Okay, now to give our product a little bit more texture and a little bit neater look, we're going to replace this straight blade with a rippled blade, same 6 millimeters, but this is going to give us a little bit more texture and visual appeal to the product. Now these ripples provide such a great texture. As you can see, but really the visual side of it is incredible. So you can imagine a salad bar, places like that, school food service, wonderful use for a ripple cut disc. A little bit different than your straight blade. Another very common type of slicing disc that you're going to see are curved slicing discs. This curved blade that's in here is going to act much like a chef knife would when it cuts through a product. It's going to come around and it's going to slice through the product at an angle rather than coming straight down on it. Where this is important is with products that are very soft, such as a tomato. This will slice through the tomato without smashing it or damaging it, giving it a very clean cut. Now, I cut the tops off of these to get rid of the stem. This is going to help me because I'm going to put the product in, and it's going to give me something flat to be able to put in the processor. Let's try to keep these upright so I get nice slices of it and they don't tip over as much. As you can see, we have some nice, perfect slices of tomato. These are great for hamburgers. This is the perfect size. This was a curved blade in 5 millimeter. I'm going to give you a nice close-up of that slice, that 5 millimeter curved blade. As you can see, skin on here is perfect. So no damage to it, very clean cut. And that's what that curved blade down here, that's what that curve does so well. As that comes around, like I was saying, it's gonna slice through it like a chef knife. Anybody that's spent enough time in a kitchen knows how much of a pain it is to slice cherry tomatoes. There's all sorts of tricks out there, but using the same 5 millimeter curved slicing blade, look at this. You can take those cherry tomatoes right down, perfect sliced cherry tomatoes, awesome for your salad bar. Now that we got a good grasp of the basics of the slicing disc that we have, let's talk about how we can use a slicing disc with something like a grid to be able to make dice cuts. What we're going to do is have this bladed grid. This is going to go down in our processor first. Our blade will go on top of that. Now what's going to happen is we're going to slice, let's say, a tomato. We're going to slice this tomato, making that nice perfect cut like we did before. The bottom of these discs have this precision milled ramp right here. That is going to butt up against that grid knife blade here, and that's going to push the product through to make a perfect cut for a dice. In this case, we're doing a 10 millimeter by 10 millimeter. We can switch these discs out so they can be a little bit longer, shorter, all sorts of different size grids for a variety of dice cuts. Let's go ahead and take a closer look at that grid. As you can see, it's very sharp on this edge. You have your square cuts. This is the second of 2 cuts. Put this in. The blade is going to make the first slice. The ramp here This is where it's going to push the product down as it comes around on top. That ramp, that's going to push the product into the grid, making that nice square dice. Now there are different grid options out there, larger sizes, even a julienne style. So this is the way you would make a French fry. Same thing, slicing disc on top of this, slices, cuts, pushes through here, and you get all of your perfect julienne cuts for French fries. Sweet potato fries, anything that you could cut into a julienne, great for carrot sticks and celery sticks as well. Another grid is this very specialty grid. This is a ricing disc. How this works, put it in the same way as you would any of the other grids, but we'll get a slicing disc, a large slicing disc that will cut on top, push product through this. The product that you're gonna be sending through this though is gonna be already softened things like potatoes, so boiled potatoes. Put those through and it will send it through, it will rice it, and you have perfect rice mashed potatoes. Let us, however, focus on dicing. With our dice grid in place and our slicing disc ready to go, we'll lock down the machine and we can send our product through. Now, something to think about with dicing, a lot of the quality machines can do this because they have that precision milling that we talked about a little bit. That area between the tomato slice and dice is a critical part. Because we're cutting and then pushing the product through, if there's any variance between the blades, that leaves product in between. That product will smash if there's room for it. That's where higher quality machines, these larger ones, they're going to be able to dice things, especially soft things like tomatoes, a lot more efficiently than the less expensive units that are out there. You're going to get a much better dice with these. So be careful when you're specifying your equipment. You're going to want, if you're doing a lot of dicing, you're going to want to be able to do that properly with the right machine. Now for dicing, things are a little bit different. We don't have to really focus on the way that things like this, like the tomatoes, are going to sit in the machine. When we did those slices, we used the shape of the hopper that we've discussed in previous videos. We've used the shape of the hoppers to hold everything up, so we make sure that the product doesn't fall over and we don't get sideways cuts. That becomes more challenging with the full-size hopper. With a dice, though, because it's a square, we don't really care which way the product lands on here. So you can use one of these full-size hoppers to do much more product if you're doing tons of dice. If that's the focus, one of these machines might actually be the better machine for the job. With these tomatoes, this is the perfect example of when we want to have nice slow cuts versus fast. Always with tomatoes, soft product like this, let the machine do the work. You don't want to pull very hard on it because you don't want to smash. Nice and easy, slow speeds give you the perfect dice. You can see how fast it is. You can see our nice dice cuts. Now using the same disc as before, but switching over to this julienne grid, I'm going to quickly show you how to make some fast French fries. The key will be the way that we put the potato in the machine. We don't want it to stand up, otherwise we get very small cuts. We want it to lie down full size through the hopper. You can see how fast you can make fresh French fries. The second way to do a julienne cut is one of these discs that cuts both cuts. You can see it does a slice and then it has these comb cuts that make all the individual slices as well. So this one disc works to be able to make a julienne rather than having to put both the grid and the slicing disc on. You just have the one disc. This is great for fast, easy, efficient cuts. A little bit more expensive. So this is where you would see a julienne disc that might be a little bit different than we saw before. We can get much, much tighter, smaller cuts though with this style, which is great for what we're going to do. Very thin matchstick cuts for carrots. Doing this style of cut with a carrot is going to be another great example of when to use the chute. We can put this product through and make sure it's upright, and we'll get very small matchsticks of carrots. This is great for a salad, coleslaw, anything like that. Awesome little cuts of carrots. You can see this would be perfect in your coleslaw. Garnish, wonderful on a salad bar. Very, very difficult to do by hand, especially at that speed. Once we're done slicing and dicing, especially the dicing, we have to clean. And one of the topics that's always a discussion when it comes to food processors and dicing is how do we clean the grids? The grids could be kind of a chore to clean. So make sure that you check out with any one of your manufacturers their cleaning procedures and adhere to them. Always keep your hands, fingers away from the sharp side of blades. Some tips for these, if you don't have a machine or a manufacturer that has a suggested cleaning product to help you out with it. Some people use crushed ice in the machine, fill that up, run that through, that will push everything out. Other ways of doing it is taking your grids, putting it into a steamer for a little bit, softening the product, and then being able to spray right out. For us, how we recommend it is just to use a cleaning kit that pushes all the product out. Cleaning systems like this are great because it's a safe way to push all the product out, blade side down. And if you use a kit like this, generally, you're going to be able to save the product rather than pushing it through the sink. You can save all that. Everything's mostly clean. Spray this off. Less time with people touching the areas that could harm them. Nice, safe way to clean and reserve product. Besides all the slicing and dicing that these machines can do, high production machines like this, they're great for shredding cheese as well. So some of the discs that we're going to look at are our shredding and our grating discs. When it comes to grating cheese, there's two different styles of discs. So you see here, this is kind of the typical raised scoop style grate. Then you have this raised tooth style. This here, this would be used more for hard cheeses, Parmesan, stuff like that. That's where you're going to get that powdered look for your cheese. These grating discs are good for more items than just cheese. They're really good for things like potatoes to make hash browns, carrots, beets, any prep like that makes a really good shred for all those products as well. The most common application for these shredding discs, however, is shredding cheese. And the two most common sizes that we find for shredding is a smaller 3mm, great for tacos, think taco bar, that small shred, and a 6mm. This is great for mozzarella, more of a thicker shred of cheese for toppings like pizza cheese. There are a couple reasons why we would use fresh cheese and shred that ourselves rather than buying the pre-processed stuff. One of the main reasons is if you ever buy one of those bulk bags, on the bottom of it, you'll see sometimes this white powder stuff. It's basically a starch. It's an anti-caking substance that they put in there. That makes it, prevents it from molding, preserves the life of it, but what it also does is it prevents it from melting properly. So a lot of places that are doing pizzas, tacos, as we said before, they need a cheese that melts properly. That's why they turn to machines like this to be able to shred their own. They get a better product out of it. And they save money because they're not paying for that extra added weight of the anti-caking substance. They're getting pure product that can melt well, shredding it themselves. Now, because we're going to be shredding cheese and that just comes in blocks, we won't necessarily need to restrain ourselves to the half-size hopper. We can actually use the full size where we can add more product into it in one shot. and we can use the high speeds of a variable speed machine to get the most output possible. Okay, now with our disc in place, we're going to shred some cheese. One thing to be aware of is depending on how much strength, how much force you push down on the cheese, you're going to get different types of shreds. So maintaining a consistent pull is going to be vital if you want consistency. There is some incredible new technology out there that allows us to visualize the actual amount of force that's being pushed down on the product as it shreds. Being able to visualize this force gives us the most consistent product that we can have. Every time between all operators and operations. So you can really see how a 3mm shred with one of these machines just gets you the perfect topping cheese, something that would melt with any kind of product that's already hot. Great again for tacos, items like that. This was the 3mm shred. Just like the machines and everything before, whenever we're sourcing this kind of stuff, we want to be able to look for cleanability. How easy is the stuff to clean? It's good to know about that ahead of a time. Look for discs that can kind of come apart easily without tools so that you can get all the cheese, everything that gets stuck in between. Get all that out very easy, very fast. Okay, now that our taco cheese is done, we switched our discs out, wiped everything down. We'll set this up to be able to shred our mozzarella. Great for pizza. All right, I want to give you a good shot inside here of how this cheese goes in. We've be able to put multiple blocks into this full-size hopper, where if we use the other one, we would only have this half. So you can really up the production with one of these. This is great, again, for if we're going to be shredding cheese for pizzas, because we're going to be doing hundreds of pounds of this cheese. For us, though, it's just going to be this one block. Check out our shreds side by side. The 6mm mozzarella, perfect pizza topping. This is going to melt great on a product that goes into the oven. This over here, the 3mm shred, like we said, perfect taco. Cheese, we can put this on a product that's already hot as kind of finishing, and it will melt by the time it gets to the customers, just a couple seconds, and it'll just melt with that heat because it's so small. I hope this information helps you decide what type of shredding you're going to need depending on the types of cheeses that you're going to do, or for you to know that maybe it's 2 discs, not just one, that you'll need for your application. Well, that about covers all the accessories when it comes to the discs that you'll be needing to think about when you're sourcing or purchasing any of these food preparation machines. Join me for some more food preparation 101. Hello and welcome back to Food Preparation 101. This time we're going to go over immersion hand blenders, some of the unique features about these, some of the optional accessories, and when you're specifying, some of the differences to look into depending on what you're trying to do for your kitchen. These immersion hand blenders may be one of the most versatile and common tools that you're going to find in a commercial kitchen. These can range from very small operations to large operations. And you're going to see, depending on the scope of what you're trying to do, you may have very large machines, you may have very small machines. We're going to go over some of those accessories and some of the difference between these arms and the designs of these immersion circulators to help better improve your kitchen operations. There are a lot of manufacturers for these machines and a wide variety of machines to choose from. So typically the first thing you're going to do is search for the correct size that you want. But size means a few different things. Obviously, the shaft size is very important. This is going to tell us what size container these can fit into. This can go from a very small saucepan to a large braising pan. Next is the size of the motor. How many horsepower, what wattage is in the machine. That's going to give you the strength of that. And depending on what you're looking for, those two things can vary quite a bit. All right, let's talk a little bit about the difference between variable speed motors and single speed motors. Variable speed motors are absolutely necessary when it comes to batter beaters. This makes sense because you don't want to fling batter or flour all over a kitchen. You need to start slow and then you can speed it up. You can use that same style motor, variable, with an immersion arm where you can range from about 1500 RPM all the way up to 15,000 RPM. This gives you a lot of control and different styles of blending that you can do. Typically, you might find single speed in this style. You're going to save some money going with a single speed unit. These are going to be about 1200 RPM and really get the job done just as well. Just has us a little bit less flexibility than being able to change the speeds with the variable speed. Also, when it comes to size, we have to be aware of the actual bell and blades that are on these machines. A lot of our capability for blending actually comes through with these blades, obviously. So we want to make sure that we know what we're looking at. As you can see here, these are hand blenders with a tri-blade system, so 3 blades instead of 2. More blades are going to help the blending process. So if we look at those RPMs that we had before and you combine that with these blades, you actually get a lot more cutting power just by increasing the amount of blades. Also, the blending zone, what is actually going to be cutting in these, is very important as well, and that's where we look at the bell and the shape of these blades as well. If we look closely at these blades, you can actually see one blade is flat, one blade angles up, and the other blade will angle down. This gives us an actual cutting zone inside of the immersion blender. And I'm going to show you a little video of that to show the actual area between and how that's blending at rapid speeds. So if we look very close at these blades, you can see how this one is actually bent out. The next blade is flat. And the following blade is bent towards the machine. This gives us about a 1/8 inch blending zone. As we can see when we speed this up, that's what's going to be our cutting zone. Okay, so you can see there's a lot that goes into just the blades when it comes to the sizing and speeds. That area in between those 3 blades is really a blending area. So looking at these when it comes to the power and sizing, the motor, the blades, the blending zone, the bell housing, all this plays into the same role of what is the size of the immersion blender. Now that we have a good understanding of the specifications of these machines when it comes to the sizes, let's go ahead and look at application, some of the vessels, and some of the food and products that we would be doing with these machines, where that would be different depending on sizes and types. Let's go ahead and begin with talking about the smaller side of things. This is a 9-inch blending arm. This is great for about 10 liters of product. Typically, you'll see something like this. This is a 3-liter saucepan, great to be able to make your blends. These are wonderful for emulsifications. We're going to do that right here in this. Having that powerful 3 blades in here, we're going to be able to aerate and get a nice little consistency on this. Making our aioli, we're just going to throw all the products in. This is a garlic aioli, so we have a few cloves of garlic just tossed in here, eggs settled to the bottom, and then oil on top with, of course, some mustard as an emulsifier. We're going to want to bring the bell all the way to the bottom, kind of kicking it to the side a little bit, and then from here we're going to blend at a rapid speed to get as much mixing as we possibly can. Okay, in just a matter of seconds, less than really a minute, we'll have a full emulsification. And there you have it. With just a couple seconds with one of these hand blenders, we can make ourselves an aioli, full emulsification, real quick, super simple. Now that we saw what the small size hand blenders can do, let's bring it up a little bit. I want to show you the difference with the power of a little bit larger motor, pretty much the same size length for the arm. The bell housing for this is much bigger than the small one. So when it comes to the size, it's going to be the same arm size. However, we're going to have some more power, which gives us a better, bigger bell housing and larger blades. This is going to help us mix more. So where this maxed out about 10 liters, this is going to max out at 12. However, it's going to be a much quicker 12 than what that 10 was. All right, we're going to go straight in and start blending. See how quick it was to go ahead and scramble 9 dozen eggs. Now, as we move up to our next size, I want to talk a little bit about combination machines and batter beaters. There are, just as we've been seeing, immersion blenders just like this. They come plain and simple with a blending arm. There are as well hand whisks like this that come just with a whisk. So if you're doing batters for waffles, funnel cakes, pancakes in our example, this is great for that. And there's combo machines where you can buy them and they have both. So just like this machine, you can switch between the two models, giving you the most versatility out of your immersion blender. Okay, to see a batter beater in application, we're going to do some pancake batter. We have our liquids in here, we have our dry in here. We also threw in some bananas just to give it a little something special. A cool thing about these batter beaters is there is a gear system inside of the arm that reduces the speed. So we talked about it before, having variable speed on batter beaters is incredibly important. Where we used to have 1500 to 15,000 RPMs as a immersion blender, as a batter beater, we're looking at 300 to 1500 RPMs, drastically reduced. Obviously, you don't want these things to be going too fast and throwing things all over the place. That also helps us maintain the whisks themselves. So let's go ahead and mix this up and see this in application. Okay, we're going to begin by going as slow as possible, the slowest setting. For this, we are actually at 200 RPM. Now that our batter is all but done, we're going to add now some blueberries to make these nice blueberry. Something else that we want to make sure that we don't forget to add is the fact that when we specify these, we probably want to look for immersion blenders with removable arms. Once you make a mess like this and you want to get your arm over to a sink, it's nice just to detach it, switch it up if you have a combination machine, but this is a lot easier to transport around a kitchen than an entire arm having to unplug it. So look for the removable arms. Now let me show you the awesome power of the extra large immersion hand blenders. This is a 25-inch arm with a 5-inch bell housing, 840 watts, 1.25 horsepower, running at 1200 RPM. Now, this is a much smaller container than what this can handle, but you can see the vortex that it pulls, how it's able to use that tri-blade cutting system to really move all the product around without having to jostle the machine around. Okay, last, let's talk about something that's very, very critical to these machines: safety. A lot of manufacturers do a lot of different things with this. When you are sourcing these machines, look for some key safety items. Simple, a rubberized handle so it doesn't slide out of the operator's hands. These are very dangerous machines with very sharp blades on them that are handheld. We do not want them to slip. Speaking of slipping, see machines that have, or look for machines that have a squared housing, a squared body. When this lies on a table, it won't tend to roll as much as a rounded machine. Another key safety that we like to do is add a LED light that indicates when this is energized and under power. When these are cleaned, we want to make sure that they're disconnected from power before we remove the arms. This is a great visual indication for anybody, management, to be able to see if this is in fact disconnected from the power. While this is under operation, this light will turn from red to green, showing as this is running that it is spinning and energized. So a lot of different safeties to consider with these machines. Always be careful with them. Well, there you have it. Wow, that is a lot of stuff that these machines can do. You can see why they are so versatile, why you can find them in almost any kitchen out there, from the very small to the ultra large. These things can blend, emulsify, batter beater, anything that's out there. What we went over today was some of the things that you're going to look for in the spec of these, the sizing when it comes to the motors, when it comes to the arm length, the bell housing, even the blades, and what those differences are going to do to help you in your kitchens. So thank you once again for joining me for Food Preparation 101. I look forward to our next segment.